We face risks every single day, starting a new venture, making a tough health choice, taking a big financial leap. But in his incredible book, Risk Savvy, Gerd Gigerenzer argues that our modern pursuit of absolute certainty is actually costing us deeply. Right now, we're going to dive into this explainer of Risk Savvy to understand how to stop gathering endless, confusing data and start seeing our choices clearly. Because according to Gerd Gigerenzer, Risk Savvy is really about reclaiming your mind from fake precision. So let's explore Risk Savvy and get started.
Picture this. You're sitting in a clinic waiting for a scan result or maybe a potentially positive test. Before your mind can even process the statistics the doctor is about to hand you, your body reacts. You aren't weak because risk shakes you. It's just human biology. Your throat tightens, your pulse spikes. You're trying to build a rational case, but you're just totally flooded with a physical sense of threat.
You call it careful thinking, but certainty craving turns risk into a courtroom inside your chest. The judge sounds exactly like you, and the sentence feels like safety. But eventually, putting off a choice becomes its own form of self-punishment. To get out of that mental courtroom, we need to understand an absolutely crucial distinction. The core lesson here is that risk is not the same thing as raw danger, and it's certainly not blind uncertainty. Risk actually has a specific shape, and using the wrong mental format, it literally weaponizes your intelligence against you. It lets you sound sharp while staying completely frozen, constantly asking for more proof until proof just becomes a hiding place. You might call it being rigorous, but hiding behind vague numbers just lets your inner critic prosecute every single move you make. You know, self-sabotage rarely looks wild and reckless. Usually it looks like opening just one more tab to check one more forecast. It says, hey, be rational, and then drains all the momentum right out of your action. Highly capable people do this all the time, using vague statistics to postpone choices and calling their fear research. We have to draw a hard, clear line between two distinct worlds here. On one side, we have true risk. These are situations with actually calculable odds, like a game of roulette. But on the other side, we have uncertainty, unknowable futures, like a global event or an unprecedented market crash. We suffer terribly when we demand a perfect decimal point from a world that just cannot give it. It's a recipe for endless anxiety. So, how do we upgrade our thinking to handle this better? We start with the concept of the base rate. This is simply the background rate of an event before any new signals or tests arrive. When you anchor yourself to this base rate, you stop treating a decision like a mood, and you start treating it like a system. Without knowing the base rate, risk just becomes social pressure, and you end up obeying whatever headline is screaming the loudest. Which brings us to the theater of framed numbers. There are two ways data is usually presented to us. The first is relative risk, and man, this is where the drama lives. Imagine a headline screaming, your risk of disease doubled. It sounds absolutely terrifying. But absolute risk is your baseline truth. If the original risk was 1 in a million, doubling it only makes it 2 in a million. Absolute risk forces the truth out into the open by making you ask, safe compared to what? Let's use a highly practical example to really anchor this idea. Picture a doctor explaining a test in a mammogram room. Instead of using these floating, abstract percentages that immediately make a patient go cold, let's give the statistics a physical body. I want you to imagine exactly 1,000 women standing in a room. Out of those 1,000 women, let's say the screening test flags 10 positive signals. By counting actual people instead of throwing around confusing percentages, we are drastically easing our cognitive load. We're using what experts call natural frequencies. And here is the final cognitive relief. Out of those 10 positive signals, only one is a true case. Suddenly, the fog thins out, the panic has edges, and the risk has a definitive shape. When the number gets a body, you can practically place them in a room. 1,000, 10, 1. You can almost relax, but that relief is exactly where the danger lies, because even a clear number can seduce a lazy mind. True risk literacy doesn't remove the need for your own human judgment. It just makes your judgment honest. As the author brilliantly points out, a percentage can frighten, but a frequency can clarify. Think of it like a musician tuning their instrument before a concert or a strategist redrawing a map before a march. Whenever you're faced with a high-stakes percentage in life, you need to translate it into a natural frequency before you trust the verdict. That's a huge part of what we're building here. We also need to completely let go of a really lazy assumption, this false faith that gathering more information always equals more understanding. Gathering endless data often just buries the actual signal. Adding more variables can actually be a sneaky way for our fear to dress itself up as carefulness. Complexity can clarify, sure, but complexity is just as often used to conceal. This requires a massive paradigm shift in how we look at the odds. The turn begins when you stop asking risk to soothe you. It can't. Risk can only orient you. Instead of asking, what number makes me safe, we should be asking, what action does this number allow me to take? Action has to come after clarity. You have to ask yourself what you would choose if there was absolutely no shame. Because shame is often the hidden tax on unclear risk. Shame drives the inner courtroom's demand for perfect certainty. You fear being exposed as naive, so you overthink. Or you fear being exposed as timid, so you rush. Both of those are just obedience. Neither of them is actual judgment. Before any high-stakes choice, you should apply a robust translation framework to your doubt. Ask yourself 3 simple things. First, what is the baseline? Second, what are my real alternatives? And third, and arguably most importantly, what is the post-outcome regret? That third question brings your future self into the room, letting you feel tomorrow's regret before it has the chance to own you today. When the world gets incredibly noisy, you need what researchers call a fast and frugal heuristic. Now, I know it sounds like a complex term, but it really just means using a simple rule suited to a specific environment. For example, setting a strict stop rule on exactly when to end your research and actually make a choice. It's probabilistic thinking with a spine. It builds a clean bridge over uncertainty. You still feel the height, but you actually cross. Ultimately, understanding the numbers in a clean format restores your agency. It allows you to actually choose. A number isn't reality. It's just a lens. A bad lens makes the world monstrous, but a good lens makes the next step visible. True risk literacy is really about adult self-respect. When you learn the form, you stop outsourcing your fear to vague statistics. I want to leave you with a provocative question to really consider today. Where in your life are you calling yourself rational when you're really just hiding from a cleaner frame? On your next big decision, take a breath, find the base rate, ask for the absolute risk, name the cost, choose your rule, and then make your move. Access your personal growth map at upgowise.com.